Hey guys, welcome back to the Destinations channel. I'm Sal Pitera, and this video is going to be a little bit different. There are lots of videos and lots of places on Facebook and other websites which will give you cruise tips of things you may and may not want to bring on your cruise or how to make your cruise a great experience. This is not one of those videos. As I look through our immense Facebook group, I see people all the time that have cruise disasters happen to them while they're traveling. And with just a little bit of preparation, none of these things could happen. So this video is going to be all dedicated about the 10 things that could go horribly wrong on your cruise, and I'm going to give you tips on what you can do in advance of leaving your home to ensure that these don't happen to you. I'll be back right after this. Welcome back, guys, and thanks for staying through the intro. As always, I ask everybody, please, if you're new to our channel, please make sure you subscribe and click the little bell notification. It really means a lot to us. What I almost never ask, except for this time, is when you're done this video, if you feel the information helped, or if you feel this information could help other people, click the like button, the little thumbs up, put a comment down in the comment section. I don't care what it is, but it helps boost this algorithm, so have us come up on more people's pages. And then click the share button and share us on one of your social medias. Because this video is different. This isn't about things to do to make your cruise a little better. This is things to do to how to prevent your cruise and things that could go absolutely horribly wrong. We have some hacks that you can do in advance which will get you out of these situations. And we're going to start with the first one right now. The first one, and I see this happen all the time, and it's so unfortunate, it breaks my heart. And that's people get to the cruise, they're ready to check in, they open their bag and realize that they've either lost or forgotten their travel documents at home. Well, there's a quick hack to ensure that this won't happen to you. First, I'm going to go over what travel documents you should bring on a cruise just for some informational purposes. If your cruise is leaving the United States and coming back to the same port, I always recommend having a passport, but it's not absolutely necessary. At bare minimum, you're going to need a valid driver's license or government ID, and an original birth certificate with the raised seal from the county where you were born. If you have those information, you're going to get on the cruise ship. If you had a legal name change, it also helps to bring proof of that legal name change as well, such as your marriage license, or if you went to a court and had it changed, that as well. Also, one great thing to bring, and we're going to talk about this a little later, is permission from a separate parent if both parents aren't traveling on board the cruise ship. Those are the things you should pack. But what happens if you're traveling and the bag you have those in gets lost, stolen, or for whatever reason you get to the cruise ship and they're not there? Well, there's a really simple hack to this. Before you leave your house, have two people, not just one, take pictures on their cell phone of all of these documents. Make sure they're clear, make sure the entire document is in the frame. Most cruise lines, and it is totally up to the cruise line's hotel director, but most cruise lines want you to get on board the ship, and they will take that photo of proof to get you on board. Without them, you're out of luck. And the reason I say have two different people take the photos is what happens if that one camera is in the same bag as what gets stolen or lost on your way down there. You'll always have a second backup. So that's a really great way to make sure that one of the number one problems with people boarding on the ships doesn't happen. Very simple hack, just take photos of them, and it's not going to happen to you. Okay, so the next one, we kind of touched on this in a second ago, and that is to have power of attorney for any children you're bringing on board that are not your children. Or, even if they are your child and another parent, like divorced parents, are not coming, have a signed power of attorney from that parent allowing you to bring the children on board. It's almost never asked for, but if something unforeseen were to happen in a foreign port, you'll have proof that you had permission to travel with that child. And here's another little hack. We've done this for all of our kids since they started traveling literally at the age of 2, is take your kids to the DMV. For about $15, they will give them a state-issued identification card. Obviously, it's not a driver's license, but it looks just like one, and it's state-issued. You're not really going to be asked for that to get on board the cruise ship, but God forbid if you were to get separated in a foreign port of call, your child can have that government ID on them. Makes it much, much easier to find yourself back together. And speaking of power of attorneys, it's also a good idea to have one power of attorney that everybody in your group signs, giving one person medical power of attorney for your whole group in case something were to happen and there was a disastrous accident. One person will have that authority to take care of everybody's medical needs. Now, I actually recommend having 2 of these, the exact same thing, but each paper having a different adult in the party being a power of attorney, because you never know which adult might happen in that accident with you. And in case of an emergency, it's a great thing to have. Number 3, and this is not as important as the first 2, but confirm your hotel and your parking arrangements at least 48 hours before you leave your house. There's nothing worse than getting to your cruise port and find out that your hotel is overbooked, and now you have to scramble for a hotel, usually at extremely inflated prices, because let's face it, you are at a port of call getting a hotel at very last minute. Also, where you're going to park your car, or if you're traveling down in a rental car, where you're going to turn in that rental car. Number 4, and this is a big one, I hear this all the time, if you have special needs, make sure you take care of those immediately as soon as you book your cruise. The first thing you're going to want to do is call your cruise lines. They have a special needs department. At Carnival, it's called Guest Access, and let them know what your special needs are. If you're diabetic, they will make sure you have a sharps container in your room. If you need special railings in the bathrooms or things to guide you around or larger doorways, they can accommodate those as well. But there are very limited amount of special needs rooms on board a cruise ship. So the earlier you contact them, the more likely they're going to be able to accommodate you with that special needs room. And unfortunately, people have gotten to know that special needs rooms are bigger, so a lot of them fake having special needs just to get those rooms. It's unfortunate, it's wrong, and if you're doing that, please stop, because there are people who legitimately need those rooms. But call as soon as possible, because they do tend to run out of those rooms super quick. Also, if you need a scooter, we have a link down below to Scoot Around, which will deliver your scooter directly to your cruise. At the end, you leave it right there at the cruise ship and they take it back for you. You want to call them as soon as possibly as well, because they also can and often do run out of scooters as people go on their cruises. Number 5 is we're going to talk about your airline transportation going down to your cruise. And I know after I say this first part, many of you are going to be, oh, it's never happened to me, it's not a problem. But I'm here to tell you, it happens every day to many people on many cruises. So just because it hasn't happened to you yet, I promise if you keep doing what you're doing, it's going to happen to you eventually, and you're going to say, man, I should have listened to that advice. And here it is. Never, ever fly into a cruise on the morning of your cruise. If your flight gets one delay, it could be mechanical, it could be weather, you're most likely going to miss your cruise that day, especially if you have a connection where you're going to be connecting somewhere. Plus, you never know where that plane came from the night beforehand. It doesn't just sit at your airport waiting for you. It could have came from a place where there's a blizzard, even though you're in Texas where it's beautiful weather. Always, always fly in at a minimum of 1 day prior to your cruise. I strongly recommend 2 in today's flying economy, because flights can and often do get canceled. And I tell you this because I actually worked and retired from an airline, so I know this. I saw it every single day. People missing their cruises because flights were canceled or delayed. I see it now working with cruise passengers all day. I get customers calling me all the time, say, can you help me get there? And unfortunately, the answer is usually no. So fly in a day before. It's just an extra hotel night. I promise it'll be a much easier vacation for you. And you'll thank me someday for not getting a delayed flight. And here's another piece of information that people don't know, and that is if you're late arriving to the airport for your flight. As long as you're not longer than 2 hours late for your flight, there's a secret rule that the airlines don't tell you about. And if you don't mention this rule, they will charge you to put you on another flight. But if you're within 2 hours of getting to the airport and you've missed your flight, simply mention the flat tire rule. There's a rule that all the airlines abide by. It's a secret rule. It's not federal law, but they all go with it. And it basically means that we know that something can happen on the road as you're coming to catch your flight, and they respect that. So just mention the flat tire rule. Tell them you had a flat tire even if you didn't, and they will put you on the next flight if they can, totally free. Number 6, and unfortunately this happens all the time, is you're in port, you're enjoying the day, you look at your watch and you realize, uh-oh, I'm late getting back to the ship. Or you purchase an excursion not through the cruise line and they get a flat tire on the way back and uh-oh, we're not going to be back in the ship in time. Well, in most occasions, unless you bought that excursion directly from the cruise line, the ship is not going to wait for you. So have a plan on what you're going to do if that were to happen. Now here are some suggestions. First of all, if only one person of your party is late and they are an adult, everybody else get onto the cruise ship and sail to the next port. What's going to happen to that adult when they miss the port is the cruise ship has what's called a port officer. They're going to go to your cabin, they're going to look for any identification, credit cards, money, and there's always a team of them. It's not just one person certain your cabin. And they will actually stay behind with the ship and help that individual make transportation costs or hotel costs to get either to the next port of call or back to your embarkation where you came on board the cruise ship. If you don't have any money, the cruise ship will often front the bill. However, it is on you, so you will either have to pay them back or out of your pocket. So I strongly recommend having an extra credit card that you don't use regularly that has a decent balance on it, just in case an emergency were to happen. And then have some kind of emergency communication, whether it be by email, some way to contact each other with those who are on the ship and the person who is off the ship. Number 7, and I just touched upon this a minute ago, is if you can, always bring a backup credit card that doesn't have any balance or a low balance on it, that has room for credit in the event of an emergency, such as somebody gets sick in port and your other family members will need to get hotels or airline transportation or just any emergency that might happen. Me personally, I don't use credit cards a lot, but when I travel, I always have 2 bank accounts at 2 totally separate banks where I keep enough money in that, God forbid, if for some reason the bank declines a charge on one of my accounts, I've got another account to work with, which can happen even if you have money in your account. A lot of times when you're traveling, a bank might think it's fraudulent because you're all over the world traveling in numbers, and they might think that somebody's used your credit card fraudulently and turn you down. And you don't want that to happen, so always have a backup funding source because you really never know what can happen when you're traveling, not just on a cruise ship, but any vacation anywhere. This is for those people who are planning on driving across country to get to your cruise ship. I can't tell you how important it is. Spend $100 about a week before you go on your trip and have your car looked over to make sure it's mechanically sound. Have your battery checked, your brakes checked, your engine looked at. Just make sure that nothing's going to happen on the way down to your cruise ship. However, also make sure you have AAA or roadside assistance through your car manufacturer, some type of emergency plan in case something does happen and you were to break down, as well as make sure you bring a credit card or have a plan to get a rental car should you need one if your car breaks down and you're not able to get it immediately fixed. That way you don't miss your cruise. And lastly, and I promise you, this is the biggest piece of information I'm going to give you on this whole video. I worked for an airline for many years, and I can tell you this one piece of information. The portable water, the clean water tank, the drinking water on board an airplane, that tank only gets cleaned about once every 10 years. Trust me, it's full of bacteria. So when I say this, take it in stride. Never, ever, ever drink the coffee on board an airplane. Don't do it. I promise you, you have a big chance of getting a stomach virus. That is the number one thing we know in the airline business is never, ever drink the coffee. Anything you consume on board an airplane should come out of a can or a bottle fresh from the air steward's table. So that's it for this video and some things that could really save you a disaster on your trip. Again, make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the thumbs up button for me this time, and comment down below any comment you want. That will boost us in the algorithm and more people will see this video and will have better plans for the cruise. And then ultimately, if you'd like to hit the share button and share this on your own Facebook, I would be sincerely appreciated and humbled. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time right here on the Destinations channel.